I have men in my family, or plenty of friends that are cheaters, and they have great women in their lives, but it's about something they're seeking, to please their ego, or they feel like they need to get back out here and see if they still got it or whatever. And it's not about that woman. But at times when you are the woman and you're in that situation, you feel like, why is this happening, or what's going on, or you're trying to make it make sense, because everybody claims they want the wife with these qualities. Like you said, the hoes need to stay in their lanes and they need to not switch lanes. But I think that the messages, there's a lot of mixed messaging and mixed signals sent by men in relation to that.
I get it. No, I've heard the phrase "I hate hoes" before, but anyway. So what I'm saying is that once they cross that threshold of 8 or whatever, then now they're forced into perpetual hold'em in essence, right? That's what we're doing,
No,
and you
that's
can't
not.
come back.
No, it's like, bro, it's you. Okay, so you got a lot of bodies. You just need to work with what you're worth, and not what you feel you're worth or what you deserve. You should be what you go off what you've earned. You got a bunch of niggas. You got a bunch of dick you had. You just don't qualify for the type of nigga that you want. Ideally, you're gonna have to settle, or you're gonna have to make some sort of concession. The same way, a short nigga, a nigga who don't make money, a dude who got a bunch of kids by different women, is going to have to make concessions about the type of woman he wants. It happens on both
Got it.
sides.
No, I get it. So, so what we're saying is that we could go ahead and beat the hell out of all of these women, create them, create hoes, and then they're not cool for us because we don't hold them out. But yeah, y'all dudes who ain't getting to it yet, yeah, that's your wife in a nutshell.
I don't I don't think that's what we're saying. I think Willie framed it correctly. Like when we do other comparisons, a high school dropout demanding $250,000 a year in a salary, everybody understands. But something about the fact that we try to place a standard on a woman's chastity seems to just, I don't know why.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just trying to figure out what do we do with the hoes. That's the problem, right? Where do hoes go? What place do they have in the ecosystem? What are they supposed to do?
They
Once
stay
you cross the threshold, which a lot of people is too late for, who's supposed to wed these hoes? Where are
nobody.
they supposed to go?
Everybody's not supposed to be. There's not somebody for everybody. That's the story. That's a fairy tale that women made up after growing up off of Disney. It's mathematically improbable. It's more men than women for one now. But then again, 20% of these niggas like dick. So okay, now there's fewer even men.
What?
Yes, we're talking about globally. So it's a lot of these niggas don't even like women. So and then the women all like the same niggas. It's gonna be a lot of motherfuckers lonely because unfortunately niggas have standards too, and a lot of these women don't meet the standards of the men they want. So those women and the men who don't meet the standards of the women they want, they just need to go to an island and figure it the fuck out. The rest of us, we just sit over here and just pair bond. I mean, you're saying we just bond that way. But the biggest issue is I think they should all have a good man of their own. That's where I break down at.
I need to point out some misinformation. Gay men globally is in the single digits. It's like 3 or 4%. It's not 20% of men in the world. Globally, it's still a 1 digit percentage. Here in the US, it's only like 1 point something percent of gay men in the United States. So just I don't
You said 1.7?
because like
I don't know.
that's kind of like fear mongering when you say 20%. That's a lot. That is a
Yeah,
lot of the
that's really
population.
high. I think it's about 7%.
It's very high.
That's
Okay, well, we could just look it up, y'all. That's all.
Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic, but again, mind you, we're talking about black women because I'm on record saying that I don't date, Caucasian women.
the other guys.
Well, they nobody ever thought I dated a dude. I'm talking about I don't date white women, so talking about black women. So when you focus it on the black women, the numbers go up because there's fewer others. It's just math.
Are we talking about openly gay men or just gay men?
It doesn't matter. Niggas who like dick.
I think it's a lot more than is reported. That's actually gay.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's no argument there. But again, the point is, there's just not going to be enough good men for the. There's not going to be enough good men for the good women to have one of their own. So for the average women, the below average women, the bitches in the comments, they fucked.
The thing that I'm listening to right now is basically the idea that there's not enough good women or good men. So, I think that when you talk about good women or good men, you need to be equally matched. I think the problem with a lot of relationships is you're not equally matched with somebody, whether that is financially, intellectually, whatever. So I think that those things can create or lead to a lot of chaos in a relationship depending on the dynamic. But I also think it's hard to quantify what exactly is a good man or a good woman, because what's good for me might not work for somebody else, depending on what you want going on in your household or, in your relationship, because everybody has their own personal non negotiables.
I would disagree with that. I think that
Okay.
I think to most men we are looking for similar things. I think that 80% of men will probably agree on what a good woman is. I do think that.
And I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with that. But I'm saying, for examples, there's some people that might say, they might feel like a good man if you are equally sharing of these household duties and the work in the house or whatever, but maybe he doesn't work. Like that's a non-negotiable for me. So, so that's what I'm saying. Like I know people that have husbands that don't work, or husbands that don't have incomes that I feel like could sustain their household. And that's a non negotiable for me. But for some people, it's not, because they are fine with that if their husband is like cleaning with them and doing dishes and things like that, that they think compensates for that. It depends on what is important to them and what their values are,
So
or in
Devin,
how they were raised.
So
Devin, do
that
you
would be
think I'm
that would be the 20% that you just spoke
a,
of. He said 80%. So I would say that 80% of women feel the way you do. Their man has to work. So, but just because there are a small, the minority of women may be
Hmm.
okay with this one-off thing. If you put 1,000 women in a room and ask them to give you their top 10 things they look for in a man,
Hmm.
eight of them things are going to be similar amongst 800 of those women. That's what
Agreed.
we're saying. So the we don't focus on the minority here, like in
Hmm.
this situation, because yeah, some of y'all, some women are like, hey, I want my woman, I want my man, let me fuck other dudes. There might be two or three chicks in that thousand that think like that. It's maybe three or four niggas that want to watch their women fuck another guy. But those are the one offs. Those are the exceptions, not the rule.
Right. And, so I also heard the conversation about, hoes, and that also was interesting for me as a newcomer, because I feel like there are a lot of people that, well, from the outside looking in, I feel like there are people that couple up and settle up with who we would in society feel are the hoes. And sometimes, as I'll label myself the good girl, there has definitely been times on the continuum of my relationship where I felt like the hoes were winning. So, you know, it just all, I feel like it all depends on, everything depends on who exactly the people are and their specific situation per se.
Let's explore that. Let's explore that.
Oh
You
shit.
you classified yourself the good
Mm-hmm.
girl. I'm
Yeah.
inclined to believe you because we just met, right?
Yep.
So you set a standard to what you were going to subscribe to before any man showed up, right?
Right.
Why?
Based on, just how I was raised and what I wanted for myself. I have, I heard you guys saying that the good girls are standing too close to the hoes. I definitely have friends and family members that society would classify as the hoes. But I also feel like I've always been the girl that's had my own thoughts, my own mind, known what I want and what I thought was okay for me, what I wanted to do and not do. And just because somebody else was doing something, it didn't really, factor into what I wanted for myself per se.
Okay, so you sound like you have somewhat of an individualistic perspective, like your own mind, which is great. Shout out to your parents. Why would you say that the hoes appear that they're winning? What exactly does that look like from the perspective of a woman?
So, I feel like in the perspective of a woman, we've a lot of women that I am either friends or family members or, been acquainted with. We've been the girl who has been the loyal good girl in the relationship that has like gotten cheated on or something has happened, and then you feel like if this is what you claim you want, then why is this what you're doing? So, you know, I know plenty of people that have been divorced because their husband was cheating and they've provided all of the things, but we know oftentimes cheating isn't really about you, the person that has been cheated on. It's about the cheater and whatever they're seeking. I have men in my family or, plenty of friends that are cheaters and they have great women in their lives, but it's about something they're seeking, to please their ego or, they feel like they need to get back out here and see if they still got it or whatever. And it's not about that woman. But, at times when you are the woman and you're in that situation, you feel like, why is this happening or what's going on? Or, you're trying to make it make sense because everybody claims they want the wife with these qualities. Like you said, the hoes need to stay in their lanes and they need to not switch lanes. But I think that the messages, there's a lot of mixed messaging and mixed signals sent by men in relation to that.